Hello, I'm the Reverend Bonnie Dlott, your Sabbatical minister. It's a great pleasure to be with you again this morning. I invite you all to relax, get comfortable, get that cup of coffee or tea, take a few deep breaths, and bring yourself into the present moment. Our opening words are from our own hymnal. They were written by Leonard Mason. We affirm the unfailing renewal of life. Rising from the earth and reaching for the sun, all living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship. Rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars, people the world over shall seek new ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to build a better world. And now, the prelude prepares us for worship.
That my eyes may see in all of us our dignity and worth, that my ears may seek the truth in all I hear, that my hands will always freely share whatever's mine to give, that my heart embraces love instead of fear. This I vow to do today, give to life in every way. This I vow to do today, give to life in every way, that my eyes may see in all of us our dignity and worth, that my ears may seek the truth in all I hear, that my hands will always freely share whatever's mine to give, that my heart embraces love instead of fear. This I vow to do today, give to life in every way. This I vow to do today, give to life in every way.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are from our hymnal. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to one another.
Life is the greatest gift of all the riches on this earth. Life and its creatures, great and small, of high and lowly birth. So treasure
Welcome to our service of worship. It's so good to be connecting with you again after a long week sheltering in place. And I hope to see many of you at the Zoom coffee hour after this presentation, and I'll tell you more about that in the announcements section. We are a liberal religious community in Sonoma County, celebrating life, empowering people, caring for one another, and helping to build a better world. Our theme for the month is wisdom, and today I'll be speaking about the wisdom found in science. But first, let's sing our UU Principles song together.
One, each person is worthwhile, to be kind in all you do. 3, let's help each other grow. 4, keep searching for the true. 5, each person has a say. 6, work for a peaceful world. 7, the web of life's the way that will bring us back to you.
Hi, I'm Jen Freese, your Director of Religious Education, and I'm here with our Time for All Ages Wonder Box. We got it back. This month, this is the last Sunday where we're talking about wisdom as the theme of our month. And I was wondering if I could have someone come and help me with the Wonder Box. Hi, Rory. How are you?
Good.
Good. Do you want to go ahead and open the Wonder Box for us? What's inside of it? What is that? Do you want to go show up closer to the camera so they can see what it is?
Hold it up a little bit.
There you
A
go.
little too close. Come back
All right.
a little bit.
Back up. All right, and come back over here. So tell us, what is this?
It's a crystal I grew by myself.
It's a crystal that you grew by yourself. It's beautiful.
And it's made of glass.
It is made of glass. What was it made of when you first created it?
A little lump.
It was a little lump? Mm-hmm. Was it like powder and some liquid and stuff that you mixed together?
No, it just started off in a package like that.
Oh, wow. And
then we put it in like this special water
uh-huh.
that like you put the dye in it, and then it was supposed to make it red, but instead it made it pink.
And you liked pink though, so it was okay, right? Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I remember when you were making this, there were a couple of special rules that we had to follow. What was one of the rules? Do you remember?
Don't put your hands in the dye.
Don't put your hands in the dye. Were you allowed to touch it right away?
No.
No, if you touched it, right? Then it would have...
No, if it shaked, it would mess up, and like they would go like... Like there would only be one spike and go...
Got it. Okay, so it would have really messed it up. Did you have to be really patient?
Yeah, it costed like 10 days.
It took 10 days for the crystals
But
to
it
go.
said 5 days or 3, but I waited like 10 days.
You waited like 10 days? Wow. It turned out really beautiful though, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you had to follow the directions really carefully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know what this makes me think about? This makes me think about the fact that there's wisdom in science, that following the steps, taking a guess, putting certain things together, being patient, and then observing and seeing what kind of comes out of it can result in something really, really beautiful, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really special. So this week, I want all of you to remember that there's wisdom in science. I think that we're all pretty science-loving people out there, but maybe even more so. We can think about being patient and knowing that beautiful things will come. Does that sound good? Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's tell everyone who we are. Do you want to put it back in the box? Thanks, Rory. All right, here we go. We are Unitarian Universalists, people of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands.
Good morning, my friends. All the members of the stewardship team, Alan Bell, Carol Daly, John Mason, my husband, Robert Hausman, and I send warm wishes to all for your health and safety. Our community has weathered difficult and unprecedented situations in recent years, and I have seen that we are a resilient, determined people. Certainly, our congregation is still working hard for us. I'm encouraged and uplifted by the creativity and generosity of our ministers, musicians, staff, our board, and other leaders. We continue to create worship, to offer assistance to our community, and to connect with each other so no one need feel alone. We know there are those in the congregation who are very worried about how they'll manage financially with the stay-at-home orders and who may need to postpone their pledge payments. Our congregation will also be affected by the loss of income from Glazer Center rentals. Nevertheless, our board has committed to paying our staff salaries during this time, as they do whatever work they can to support the congregation. So UUCSR needs our financial support now more than ever. For those of you who are not affected financially now, we encourage you to maintain your regular pledge donations or increase them if you can. If you don't already fulfill your pledge by autopay, please consider doing so now, because it's the best way to ensure that your pledge gets paid regularly. Just go to our website, uusantarosa.org, click on the red Pledge Donate Now button, and follow the easy directions. If you need help getting that going, reach out to me. I'm in the directory. You can also use that same page to make a donation to the Share the Sunday basket. Let's all do our part to make sure that UUCSR stays healthy until we can meet again.
You can also send a payment by text, and these payments always go to our Share the Plate recipient. In case you missed last week's announcements, I wanted to tell you that the board has committed to paying all of our staff members through the month of March, whether or not they're able to come in and do their work. Your generosity allows us to do this, so please, if you're able to, send in your pledge or make your donation. In that spirit, please join me in saying the Offertory dedication. To the work of creating beloved community within and beyond our walls, we dedicate these offerings and ourselves. In just a moment, our lay chaplain of the day will be discussing the milestones for this week, followed by a pastoral prayer. If you would like to light a candle for a joy or sorrow this week, feel free to do so at home during or after the prayer.
Hello, my name is Paula Hammett. I'm one of your lay chaplains. Milestones is a place where we share our joys and sorrows with the congregation. If you have something to share, please send it to me and we'll send the compilation out to the focus list on Sundays. We'll also add it to the Milestones book. If you have a private concern, contact us. Your lay chaplains are Lucia Milburn, Barbara Kieser, Bruce Hope, Tamara Merle, Mary Lee Lill, Al Liner, and me. This can be a sad and lonely time for people. I know I woke up one morning this week feeling sorrowful and a little scared. Once I identified what I was feeling, I let myself feel those emotions for a few minutes. And then I was able to get up and get on with my day. Find something that brings you peace. Step away from the news for a while. Listen to some music that inspires you. Be gentle with yourselves and others. Remember, you are not alone. Reach out so that we can all help each other. Call someone you haven't talked to in a while. Be creative. Lucia Milburn shared that Robert Hausman called her daughter Nina and sang to her, "You are my sunshine." Nina was delighted. Joe Como knew that Sid Gordon was missing his band concerts. So Joe played his tuba for Sid over Skype. Grandparents are using FaceTime to read bedtime stories to their grandkids or help them with homework. The Press Democrat described a drive-by birthday party parade for a 10-year-old. Find new ways to share the things you love with the people you love, even if it's just a phone call. I'll close with a blessing from Laura Solomon, a divinity student from Meadville Lombard Theological School. Spirit of life, help us remember to hold ourselves and each other with tenderness and grace. As we meet each new obstacle, let us take 3 gentle breaths, one for ourselves, one for our loved ones, and one for the world. Be safe and be well.
At this time, I'd like you to join me in an attitude of prayer or meditation. You can close your eyes or focus on my Buddha, who's been a great help to me this week, inviting me to let go of all my worries and anxiety. Because it's been a very long week. Depending on your situation, it might have been boring or relaxing, anxious, challenging, exhilarating, lonely, and probably overwhelming, or maybe all those things. You might have had a productive week, helping others, completing long-delayed projects, reviving set-aside hobbies, or maybe just learning to work from home, which was not a small thing for many of us, myself including. As Paula just reminded us, this week could have been very difficult as you dealt with illness, separation from loved ones, loss of income, and loneliness. Regardless of how your week was, we all face uncertain times ahead, and it's beyond stressful. I seek comfort in poetry, and the one that helped me this week is called Desert Times by Margaret Kuyp. When I've finished reading, I'll ring a chime, and let us hold our customary 5 minutes of silence together, except for my wind chimes, which won't stop chiming. We will come out of our silence singing Spirit of Life. The journey of our lives are never fully charted. There comes to each of us deserts to cross, barren stretches, where the green edge on the horizon may be our destination, or an oasis on our way, or a mirage that beckons only to leave us lost. When fear grips the heart or despair bows the head, may we bend as heart and head lead us down to touch the ground beneath our feet and scoop some sand into our hands and receive what sand would teach us. It holds the warmth of the sun when the sun has left our sight, as it holds the cool of the night when the stars have faded. Hidden among its grains are tiny seeds at rest and waiting, dormant, yet undefeated. Desert flowers, they endure. Moistened by our tears and by the rains which come to end even the longest drought, they send down roots and they bloom. May we believe in those seeds and in the seeds within us. May we remember in our dry seasons that we too are desert flowers. Amen.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart choristers of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the land, give life the shape of justice, roots holding close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
I am decidedly not a scientist. I have neither the patience nor the capability for the intense study and single-minded focus required to tease out the secrets of the universe. But more and more, I find that for me, science can be a portal to the sacred. This is particularly true in my experience of the divine in the natural world. I get just a taste of this wisdom at Bouverie Preserve in Glen Ellen, where it is my great good fortune to take 3rd and 4th graders on hikes and share with them some of the miracles of nature revealed by science that are right in our own backyards. On our hikes in the fall, when everything can seem dry and a little dead in California, I get to tell the kids about a tiny wasp that lives in our oak woodlands. The cinnamon wasp, which is about the size of a mosquito, has figured out how to get the mighty oak trees to help raise and protect their young. The adult wasp lays its eggs on the leaf of an oak tree, and when the larvae hatch, a compound is released that induces the tree to produce a gall, a tiny protective structure, which houses the wasp larvae until they reach adulthood. These little nurseries come in over 200 different sizes, shapes, and colors. The kids' eyes light up in amazement when they see these colorful little galls on the underside of an oak leaf. And I am in awe of this mysterious cooperation between species, or what Marcelo Gleiser calls the sublime choreography of existence. As we hike through the forest, I like to tell the kids how I first learned that trees can talk. When I was on a trip to Africa, our group was watching a hungry herd of giraffes work their way across the savannah, eating the leaves off of acacia trees. Our guide blew my mind when he told us that it took just minutes for the trees to register that their leaves were being chewed upon and to start pumping a toxic substance into their leaves that the giraffes did not like. The trees also gave off a pheromone or warning gas to those trees nearby to signal that the giraffes were on their way. So those trees began pumping toxins into their leaves before the giraffes even got there. The trees were not only protecting themselves, but their neighbors as well. Scientists now know that this astounding tree communication happens in forests the world over, including our own. In so many ways, it does take a village, even in the forest. In the spring, when our field trips can be wet and rainy, the kids are fascinated by all the different types of mushrooms they see along the trails. We talk about the fact that the mushrooms are like the flowers or fruit of a fungus that lives underground, and that the soil right beneath our feet contains literally miles and miles of fungal threads called mycelia. These mycelia connect the root systems of the entire forest, much like fiber optic cables in an underground communication network, or what scientists have dubbed the Wood Wide Web. Without fungi, it would be very difficult for forests to grow and thrive. As John Muir wrote, when one tugs on a single thing in nature, he finds it attached to the rest of the world. Fungi were the first organisms to come to land out of the primordial sea 1.5 billion years ago, and plants arrived a few million years later. Perhaps most astonishing of all, scientists tell us that we human beings actually share 25% or more of our DNA with fungi and trees. To quote Gleiser again, science and spirituality meet in the visceral realization that we are connected to the very core of the universe. By the end of a hike at Bouverie, we talk about how we're connected to all of nature, that the oak tree taking care of the wasp babies, and the fungus growing in the dark under our feet, and even the giraffes and acacia trees in Africa are our distant cousins. And it is our job to preserve and protect them all. It is my hope that each child leaves the preserve with a spark of wonder and reverence for the extraordinary magnificence of the natural world, and with a sense of their own place in the vast interdependent web of all existence.
We're all
had this really great idea that those of us who've been creating this virtual worship should put together a worship blooper roll, because I've had some doozies today, and I bet some of y'all have too. So anyway, think about that. I have to say, in the past week, I've made a real effort to limit the kind of news I take in and the source of that news. As Paula mentioned this in her section for the Milestones, we have to do this just like I have to do it just to keep my anxiety from ratcheting up to from orange alert to sort of utter meltdown. And you may have noticed that some sources of news seem to be focusing on the most sensational aspects of our situation, such as the cable news channels, who continue to hurl accusations back and forth between the left and the right in an effort to cultivate our outrage. It's not a good place for me to be. I've also had to limit my time on social media. Any more than about 10 minutes of watching the avalanche of helpful tips about how to put on perfect virtual worship, to the constant updated safety tips or the latest dire predictions, send me straight into my precious hoard of nacho cheese Doritos. Can't have that. That said, I do read the newspapers every morning, and the news is very scary. There is hope, of course. More test centers are opening, ventilators are being made and shipped, and the vast majority of folks that I hear about are doing absolutely everything they can to pitch in and help wherever they can. Something else that gives me hope is my observation that more and more people are listening to the scientific community. Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is an infectious disease expert and a member of the White House Corona Task Force, is briefed almost every day. He is even allowed to correct our commander-in-chief openly, which he does, I would say, often. In these extraordinary times, it's important to listen to the voices of scientists. They've been working very hard to provide us with needed facts, such as how the virus is transmitted, who is most vulnerable, and how the pandemic will likely impact our healthcare system in the next few weeks and months. Of course, every source of wisdom has its limits. Consider the sources that we've explored already this month. We've looked at creativity, poetry, the body, nature. These are bountiful sources of wisdom that can certainly help us cope with what's going on right now. But could any of these sources offer us information on how to avoid infections or predict how this pandemic will impact our hospitals? Not really. The kind of wisdom offered by science is unique. It can be characterized as factual information about the universe, which is discerned through rigorous experimental methodology known as the scientific method. Using this method, scientists propose theories about the material world, and then they test those theories in an attempt to see if they hold up. The experiments are designed very carefully and published widely so that other scientists can verify the results for themselves. Often, the theories of scientists can't be proven absolutely. Sometimes the best we can do is just show that a theory can't be disproven. These unproven theories, such as, for example, the theory of evolution, they don't go away. They just remain theories. They may or may not ever be proven to be proven or declared to be laws, and even our laws, as we know, can be modified if needed. The goal in science, above all personal motivations, is to understand how the world works. This is why information from scientists is so critical to us right now. We need to know how the coronavirus works. We need to know how it spreads, how it impacts populations, and what kills it. We need facts. But ultimately, science is much more than facts and research and data. As Judie's reflection described, it is also about curiosity, wonder, and understanding our interconnections. In her reflection, Judie quoted Marcelo Geiser, who is a theoretical physicist at Dartmouth College, specializing in particle cosmology. Judie shared with me a wonderful blog post of his called Embracing the Mystery. He starts the post this way: "Science is the grand narrative we construct to make meaning out of the mystery of existence. There is, however, much more to science than the pursuit of knowledge about the material world. Science is often seen as a cold, detached endeavor that cares little about the human condition. Nothing could be further from the truth." He goes on to suggest that scientists, quote, confront, quote, "some of the deepest questions of existence." He reminds us that Einstein once remarked that the act of wondering about the behavior of the world is, quote, "an act of veneration inspired by what he called the cosmic religious feeling." This really resonated with me. As you heard last week, if you listened to my message, nature fills me with an overwhelming sense of wonder and reverence. In college, I channeled those religious feelings into a career in the biosciences. I loved studying biology because it kept me connected with the community of the holy that I experienced in nature. I studied chemistry and physics and discovered that life speaks with atoms and molecules. Once those disciplines were mastered, the scriptures of life could be translated: photosynthesis, the Krebs cycle, the replication of DNA. All these chapters could be read and understood. I graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in molecular biology and a great desire to use my knowledge to make a positive contribution to society. I enrolled in the graduate school at UCLA School of Medicine in the Department of Biological Chemistry. I chose a laboratory there that was studying a rare set of genetic diseases. I enjoyed the work and the feeling that I was making a contribution toward the understanding of a human disease process and potentially working for a relief from suffering. These particular diseases, called lysosomal storage diseases, they were tragic and mysterious. Some patients died as babies, and other patients lived to their teenage years or even beyond. The folks in our lab were consumed with questions about what was happening in the cells of these folks. Gleiser writes this about our quest to know: "If reason is the tool we use in science, it is not its motivation. We don't attempt to understand the world as an end to itself. Our search defines us, imprinted as it is with what makes us human: the passion and the drama, the challenges, the experience of elation and defeat, the perennial itch to move on, the disturbing but teasing sense that we know so little and that wonders await, hidden from view, cloaked in a veil, yet tantalizingly close." This passage brought back the most impactful experience of my entire scientific career. On this particular day, I emerged from the departmental darkroom holding a piece of film imprinted with the DNA sequence of a young boy who was suffering from a variant of Sandhoff's disease, which was one of the disorders the lab worked on. I sat down at my desk to read the sequence, and there it was, a mutation in the code that led to an incorrect processing of one of his enzymes, which accounted for his illness. It was a tremendously emotional moment. I had spent years growing and harvesting this boy's cells and manipulating the tiny amounts of DNA that I purified from them into a form in which they could finally be sequenced. For 2 years, I'd thought about this little boy and his slowly worsening disease. I thought of his mother and father and their anguish. Now I was looking into this child's DNA, and I was the first to see and understand why he was ill. It felt like a secret that God had whispered in my ear. It was just like the feeling I had in the woods as a child. Like then, I knew I was walking on sacred ground. The end result of my exploration was an understanding of what had gone wrong for one patient, an understanding that might someday help future patients. At best, Scientific exploration gives us a body of facts that can be used in the world. But here is where we meet the limits of science as a source of wisdom. Scientific facts are neutral things. They can be used to any end. Facts about the properties of various gases, for example, can be used to help people. We can use those facts to manufacture ventilators that can oxygenate the blood of patients in respiratory distress. Alternatively, facts about the properties of gases can also be used to quickly snuff out the lives of masses of people all at once. Science is a powerful source of wisdom, but it cannot be the only voice we listen to. We must pay attention to other voices as well. Two come to mind immediately. The first is the voice of experience. This need not be our experience, which is obviously important, but depending on what our needs are, there are experts available. We have historians who remind us of the triumphs and errors of the past. We have counselors and consultants who have devoted their lives to solving the problems of humans. Some of us are lucky enough to have elders who have so much wisdom, having lived longer and through different times. We have young adults who recognize the power of innovation. We have children who have the freshest perspective possible. All of these experts have wisdom to offer us. And lastly, we have our own voice. We have our consciences, our values, our priorities. Science may tell us how coronavirus is transmitted, but those facts won't help us decide what risks are worth taking. Science can't help us find meaning at times like this. Science does not indicate that we should sing to each other from balconies, or comfort each other with poetry, or touch palms through hospital room windows, or light candles, or pray for one another. But we know to do these things. We do them out of love for one another. Science can't prove anything about love, but we can. We can prove that our love, our humanity, connects us all. We can reach out in love, even if we don't know each other. This is happening all over the country, all over the world, even if it isn't on cable news. I see proof of the power of your love in this congregation every day. It comes through the emails, prayers. It's on a Zoom meeting. It's in a donation, a phone call, an errand done, a meal delivered. In these stressful times, let us be open to all the sources of wisdom that we can find. Our creativity, our experience, our bodies, poetry, music, nature, spirituality, religion, each other, science. And as we wake each morning, bracing for the day to come, let us remember that our own humanity is the most powerful source of wisdom and hope we have these days. In these days, weeks, and months to come, may we remember to honor our shared humanity in all that we say and do. I know you will. Blessed be.
And I'll bring you home.
Our closing words this morning come from the poet John O'Donohue. This is the time to be slow. Lie low to the wall until the bitter weather passes. Try as best you can not to let the wire brush of doubt scrape from your heart all sense of yourself and your hesitant light. If you remain generous, time will come good, and you will find your feet again on fresh pastures of promise, where the air will be kind and blushed with beginnings. Amen. May it be so.